everything else going on, a London derby is the perfect distraction tonight. Chelsea hold the record for the most points taken in London derby since the Premier League began, and the Blues will be looking to add to that tonight against West Ham United at Stamford Bridge. Hello and welcome to Matchday Live. I'm joined by three guests who know exactly what this is all about. Jason Cundy, Savage Dan and Claire Rafferty. Claire, I'll start with you. Having played for both sides, you know exactly what this fixture means.
Yeah, you know what? Is it a derby? Is it not? For me, it's about the win, isn't it? I think it's so important that we actually get these 3 points. We'll come away with performance at least. It's paramount that we actually show the mentality that we have and really dig in and show the example of leading from what we actually expect from this team. We've got some fantastic players. Let's put it into practice.
Absolutely right. And Dan, that's exactly it, isn't it, mate? After two disappointing defeats, it's about getting back into winning ways tonight. And again, it's a side that we know is going to be a test. But if we come through tonight and you get a result against West Ham, that all of a sudden all smiles again.
Yeah, I don't think we've had bad performances. I just feel like we've been perhaps a little bit naive and we've been sucker punched in those last two results. And we need a strong mentality, a big response, and it's always going to be a tough game when you're playing West Ham. It's a derby. They've got a good team, probably a team that works a lot harder than it looks. And we'll need to match them all over the pitch today if we want to leave it at 3 points.
Jay, obviously it's a busy period. You know, we've had a 6-day break, which feels like a luxurious 2-week holiday, to be fair. But you know, today is about exactly that, putting it into practice. I suppose what Frank Lampard's had the opportunity, which most coaches haven't over the last couple of weeks, to I suppose train and get together on the training field and work on some little pieces. And tonight, hopefully, that'll be a display that we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back at the last two performances, a lack of creativity has been a main problem for us. Both teams playing a 3 or a 5, depending where the ball is at the back, and us really being limited to shots from distance. I know there was a little bit of bad light. You could argue that we hit the post twice, which we did against Everton, and of course Zuma smacks the crossbar. But largely, creating chances and scoring opportunities has been our big problem. That is what Frank has got to work on. Who knows what West Ham are going to do? They've been seeing play them a 4, a 3 and a 5 at the back over the last month or so. So it's going to be about what they do. Ziyech has been a huge miss for us as well, no question about that. So this is a massive game for us. Don't underestimate how big this game is. We haven't lost 3 on the spin since 2015. And it's only the second time that Frank has done it in his managerial time since he's been back at Chelsea. This is going to be a tough game. This is a better West Ham side than we've seen in a number of seasons in the Premier League. If we get 3 points here, that would be massive.
I mean, you've given it quite the talk up, Jay, which is difficult because now I'm going to say, if you think you know how tonight's game is going to go, get your predictions in on Play Predictor. It's a 7 o'clock deadline tonight, but it is worth having a go because there's a £500 Megastore voucher and a signed merchandise bundle up for grabs. Submit your predictions on the Fifth Stand app. We have gone for just the final score, as we always do. I've gone for a 2-0 Chelsea win. Claire has gone for a 3-1 Chelsea win. Jason has gone for a 1-0 Chelsea win. And Dan has gone for a 2-1 Chelsea win tonight. Claire, you've gone 3-1. I'm going to start with you because I want the positivity, please. 3 goals, back to winning ways. That'd be an absolute dream tonight.
Yeah, people are a bit nervous, aren't they, about this game? Like West Ham, a bit of a bone team for us. Let's not undermine the quality that they do have. We were talking before, weren't we, about the almost unorthodox attack that they have. Yes, they are a unit, but I think it's a bit unpredictable. Obviously, the likes of Antonio and Bowen in that middle section of the pitch. I think it's the aggression that they bring to the game, the aggression that we've actually been lacking a little bit. Frank touched on it, didn't he? He feels like our levels have dropped. The break will have helped, and what Jason alluded to before, that break is going to be paramount to actually the energies that we inject into the game. It's so key. I'm a bit nervous, I'm not going to lie, but I have gone for the positive 3-1.
Dan, it's difficult, isn't it? Because again, if this game was sort of 4 or 5 weeks ago, it'd have a completely different spin on it. And if it's 4 or 5 weeks ahead, it'd probably have another different spin on it. But it feels like a time when West Ham will fancy it, Chelsea will fancy it, and hopefully that means we'll get a good game out of it. You've gone for 2-1 tonight. Yeah,
I think it is going to be a pretty a tense game. I was going to say end-to-end, but I don't think it'll be end-to-end. I think it'll be a bit more measured than that. West Ham will expect us to have the majority of the ball, I think, and they'll have that kind of spring-off attack that they usually have. Antonio's not going to stop running. So we're just going to have to be quite mature about how we go about playing them. I feel like they'll let us have the ball in certain areas and they'll make it hard to unlock them. So we're going to have to be patient. I feel like it's a game where we're going to need to be patient and we're going to need to build things slowly and then move it fast once we get into the middle and final third. But I think it's going to be a good game to watch.
Well, I think you've already touched on it. So let's go into our hot topic one, because Dan, you're speaking there about how important it is for us to get something tonight. Jay, how key is mentality, especially after 2 defeats on the bounce? You said, Frank, we've not felt that at Chelsea since 2015. I think you said the 3 defeats on the spin. So how key is that mentality? How key is that that appetite to come and get something? We've just had to mute you because obviously it's getting quite noisy inside Stamford Bridge now. But yeah, how key is that? How important is that? Not just physically, because we know the strain on players over the Christmas period, but mentally as well.
No, you fine.
We can hear Ben. Yeah,
it's crucial. This is a period of the season now where the games come thick and fast. We've come off the back of what was a really good defensive, solid base, keeping clean sheets, picking up big points, some big important wins, some good performances. Now to lapsing into a little bit of what we've seen before. Those clean sheets have dried up, creativity's dried up. It's about getting back on that horse now and making sure that when chances come, we take them. This is going to be, it's always a tough game. Claire just alluded to it. It's West Ham. These games are never easy, and they did the double over us last year, which there'll be some, not looking for revenge, but we want to put that right. And I think going into this period now, which is going to be heavy. We've got 3 games in a week. This is going to be a very, very busy time. And these 3 games, I'm not saying will define our season, but could go a long way to it, depending on how much points we pick up. If there are any defeats in there, it's going to hurt on the back of what was 2 disappointing results and performances against Everton and Wolves going into that new year. These are big, big games. Don't underestimate how huge they are starting with today.
Dan, also, the fact that Chelsea have got a young squad. I mean, the average age is, I think, 26 and a half, which is around about the league average. But, you look at the players that obviously at the top end of that age that level it out in Thiago Silva. And then the players at the other end, like Timo Werner, Kai Havertz, they haven't experienced the busy Christmas period in England yet. All the talk when you're in Europe, and any European footballer knows about the hectic English schedule over Christmas. It's the first time they've got to experience that. So not only have we got a young squad, but also the experienced players that usually you'd lean on in difficult periods. They're attempting this for the first time as well. So it's going to be a sticky patch, isn't it?
It is. I don't think it'll be a sticky patch, but it's definitely going to be something new. But given the world circumstances right now, I think they might even welcome some football, because it is. It's a busy period, but we've got a deep squad, and we want to get back into winning ways. We want our momentum back that we had before Everton and Wolves kind of just gave us a couple of losses. So we want to be able to put things right and to get back into the mode where we were before, because I feel like we were playing expansive football, we were creating a lot of chances, we were keeping clean sheets, and we need that back. So yeah, I don't think the busy period is going to be that much of a problem, especially given that we're not in the League Cup. So that probably will help us a little bit.
Absolutely, and like Dan said there, Clay, it's about maturity, I suppose, is the term that we're looking at, because players like Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham, Reece James have had to take a lot of responsibility on in the last 18 months in coming into the first team. Players that at their age and their experience level usually don't get given that sort of opportunity, but every time they've been given that opportunity, they've grasped it with both hands. So the fact we have got a young squad kind of doesn't really tell the story, because you've got characters within those younger players, haven't you?
Look, when you're young, you're fearless, aren't you? You're more likely to take risks. You think less about things that potentially could go wrong. But can we just touch on the calmness that Dan showed there? He shows the calmness of someone who's done all his Christmas shopping pre-Tier 4 lockdown. So I think that's the kind of calmness that we need to show. Chelsea need to be showing this evening. And I think they will do. It is a massive game. Let's not shy away from that. But it's about yes, let's get in the balance on. We do have a young squad, but we also need to be leaning on these more experienced players. Look, we might potentially get to the 90th minute and not score. It might be 0-0, we might be down. My prediction is that we potentially might go 1-0 down. I think that we have enough about us. Frank said himself he needs to take responsibility as well to get this squad back up and get ready to go. By the way, let's not forget the amazing things that we have done, the positivity, the way we're playing, the fluidity. That doesn't just disappear overnight. I think this is a moment for players to step up, to own what they're doing, take responsibility. And as you were saying, that opportunity, we spoke about it time and time again, haven't we? Big opportunity. So I think this is the moment to do so.
Fingers crossed. And you're absolutely spot on, Dan. I mean, calmest man I've ever seen. Holds an ice cube the whole way through the game. It never melts. Unbelievable technique. We are joined by Ben Andrews. Ben, we saw you warming up. We saw you limbering up and getting ready to deliver us the big news. I thought, to be honest with you, I thought you were getting a game. I thought you were putting a shirt on at one point, mate. But
if only. There aren't enough injuries for that. There never could be. Yeah.
Oh, don't put yourself down, mate. Not at all. Right. Talk to me then. Have you got any team news for us?
Yeah, 3 changes. One we kind of knew would happen. Reece James not fit. You could see him holding his knee in the Wolves game. Azpilicueta back into captain the side. Jorginho's back into midfield. Kai Havertz dropping out. And Tammy Abraham starts up top for Olivier Giroud. So 3 changes there. They could easily have made them or even 1 or 2 more. But, I mean, the one at right back we knew about for them, incidentally, they were a 4-2-3-1 last time. They've added an extra body in midfield because Noble's back in and Ben Rama's out. They've also made a change at the back. Diop out and Balbuena back in, but they're a pretty settled side even without Antonio. I was noticing they've got 7 players who started every game this season. That's regularity, isn't it? And it helps.
Ben, do you think the reason that perhaps Jorginho's been favoured in the middle of the park today is perhaps Frank anticipating they might put another body in there to maybe match him up a little bit? Maybe that, and the need to try and move it a little bit quicker. We're seeing a lot of teams doing very well on counter-attacks at the moment, aren't we? Man United against Leeds. I was thinking the same when I was watching Leicester beating Spurs yesterday. How quickly, it goes back to forward and, sort of three balls later, Jamie Vardy's putting it in off Alderweireld or whatever. And maybe Chelsea could be moving it a little bit quicker just in the last 2 games. It's only nitpicking. I heard Dan saying earlier, it's not been desperately poor performances. Everton defended really well and Wolves was a smash and grab. Neither was 10 out of 10 Chelsea, but equally it wasn't, Arsenal levels of dreadfulness, was it? Let's be honest. I had to take a second back because it still feels strange, but I do enjoy hearing that, Ben, so I appreciate that one. But Jay, Ben's hit the nail on the head there. Do you think that's what it is? Because you've been a champion for that in the last couple of games about perhaps that snap in the pass and perhaps the intensity of getting the ball quicker and moving it and recycling it quicker. I think that's the reason that Jorginho's given the nod today.
Yeah, and I think also that we are, as a unit, guilty of that. We saw that first half against Wolves. They were comfortable. Everything was in front of them. Everything. Cody did not have to turn around, didn't have to. You want to make sure that you get them moving, certainly their midfield from side to side. And if there can be 2 passes, why take 2 if you can only do it in that one? Maybe miss someone out. And I think we are guilty at times of just being a little bit too casual on the ball, having 3 or 4 touches where 1 or 2 will do. It's about getting, when you have lots of possession, you've got to make sure you use it wisely. West Ham will be expecting, as Dan has alluded to have less possession of the ball, but when they have it, they'll be looking to get in behind us as quickly as they possibly can. So, yeah, I'd like to see us move that ball quicker. I think we've been saying that for the last couple of games.
Dan, obviously a big reintroduction is Christian Pulisic. Obviously, he's a player that we know how much of an impact he can have, and I suppose injury has hampered his Chelsea career in general, to be fair. But when he has been fit, it's been phenomenal. And if we can get him fit and firing, then there's an incredible player to welcome back to the squad.
Yeah, even in the last week, his cameos have shown what he can bring to this team, and teams just tend to drop off a little further and give him a bit more space because they just don't know what he's going to do, and they know that he can potentially hurt them. So our injuries this week, this season so far, have always seemed to be wingers. So it's taken away a lot of our natural width. But with Pulisic in the side, hopefully Ziyech and Callum returning, hopefully we get our width back, and that will help to unlock teams as well.
So it's a great point that Dan's made there, Claire, about the natural width, and it's something that we spoke about in the Everton game. In fact, obviously with Havertz and with Werner, they're both players that perhaps want to occupy the more central areas and want to cut inside and get shots away and score goals. With Pulisic, you have the both. He's quite naturally a wider player, and I suppose with Callum Hudson-Odoi on the bench as well, Frank's slowly starting to get that squad back together where he's got options out wide rather than perhaps needing to tailor little bits and pieces.
Yeah, and them options are great, aren't they, to have? I think for us, our fullbacks obviously like to push high and we get the width from them, but having it further up the pitch, that width for me, I'm a big fan of keeping that width and being able to play through the mid off the back of it. But we need to also be careful if we have that width and we're playing defensively to make sure that we are conscious of the spaces that we're leaving behind and the threat that causes. So obviously the Wolves attack, that counter-attack, as you were saying, almost a counter-press, is how they exploited them spaces. So yeah, we also need to be conscious of that. So I think as the game goes on, we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, it's the width for me is key. Pulisic he's so direct with his runs and his movement and the way he thinks. So he's a real positive to have in the squad.
Ben, we are very lucky to have someone like Cesar Azpilicueta, who's not only a consummate professional on and off the pitch, but so versatile, where he could play right back, centre back, left back, and I know that a lot of Chelsea fans over the last couple of days, perhaps with the Reece James news, have been looking at maybe Livramento and looking at Lawrence that are playing really well in the developments and the under-18s. But when you've got someone like Azpilicueta that's so capable of going, I could do any of those roles, and to an exceptional standard, it's a massive comfort to Frank Lampard to be able to have him in the squad, isn't it?
Definitely. In a weird sort of way, he'll almost probably be a little bit relieved because he's one of the players who he would love to be at, but there isn't really very often a way of getting Reece and Cesar in. He did do it at Old Trafford. You remember he did 3-5-2 there, so they did both play, and we know those played a title-winning season as the right side of three centre-backs. But, I mean, the funny thing is, last season there were a couple of appearances, I don't know if you lot feel the same way, I thought that I was just seeing a beginning of a dip, and a couple of times when he got done for pace, and I thought, is this a longish goodbye starting now? And I actually think this season, in the games he has played, he's gone back up again. When he got, maybe that is the competition for places, maybe he's just fitter, maybe it's a million things, but I think he's been brilliant when he's played anyway. So I know they're different players, but I don't actually think it necessarily makes a great deal of difference which one of them does play. I couldn't pick them. I think I could probably have a go at picking the other 10 every week. But I actually, out of those two, I genuinely sort of don't mind and don't care. Reece is probably slightly a better crosser. Well, he is. But on everything else, it's so level, isn't it?
Absolutely spot on. And Jace, Ben has touched on something there. I think it was the West Brom game, in fact, that he brought Azpi on at half time, I think it was, and straight away you saw just the leadership quality that he adds, and we spoke about mentality and needing over this busy period. Having someone like Azpi in the squad, it makes a huge benefit. Like I said, not only on the pitch but off the pitch as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we remember that game. Alonso came off for that. I think we all know that was the right decision there. And he's so versatile, and he comes in at a right-back berth that he knows exactly what he's doing at the right-hand side. It will perhaps give us, perhaps not as many attacking options down that right-hand side, but the responsibility is still, he can still deliver a brilliant ball. That season that Ben has just spoken about, where he was the right-hand side of three, where the balls he used to deliver from Morata, and those crosses, so he is more than capable. It might be a slightly different game today with Tammy up top, maybe not Giroud, but he will still be used as that width, that high and wide width that we still like to get our fullbacks involved in the play. And of course, that link-up play that he's going to have, whoever plays on the right, whether it be Werner or Pulisic.
Dan, I just want to touch on the centre-half partnership as well, because it felt for a long time that we were sort of seeing different partnerships arise, and then it'd be 2 or 3 games, and then maybe another partnership for injury or suspension or all sorts. But now Kurt Zouma and Thiago Silva seem to be sort of solidified as Frank's first choice. It's going to be a test for him tonight, but in the case of Sebastian Haller, he's going to start up front for West Ham tonight. He's kind of, I suppose, the perfect person for Kurt Zouma to play up against. Someone that doesn't really want to engage in a huge amount, rather than the physical element, and a matchup like that might suit him very nicely.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to wrestle with Kurt Zouma. If any of those kind of, you've got to be more careful now due to VAR and all of those things. But it seems like it will suit Zouma. Any kind of physical battles, anything aerially. I think he's got the highest aerial win rate of anyone in Europe, possibly in the world. He's a monster in the air, and he is actually probably my most improved Chelsea player for this year. I feel like it looked like maybe his time at Chelsea was done, and he seems to have just consolidated himself as a starting defender. So I'm quite happy with that centre-back partnership. I feel quite secure. Like goals go in because it's just the fashion of the game right now. There's just such an attacking array of things happening that you're always liable to concede. But it feels secure with them two there. So I feel like this is a game that could suit Thiago Silva and Kurt Zouma. Absolutely,
mate. Well, that is all from us for now. Obviously, the second game in the Premier League tonight. Burnley currently 2-0 up away at Wolves. Plenty more from us. But coming up, you can enjoy Frank Lampard's press conference in full. We'll be back shortly, so see you soon.
Obviously, yesterday it was decided that there weren't going to be 5 subs going forward. How much of a blow was that to you and your players as far as you're concerned?
Well, I don't want to talk about it in terms of being a blow. It's just when we spoke about it as managers, the overriding factor from the managers, whether they were maybe for or against, because I think there were different factors to this, was that this is a case of player welfare and making sure that we're looking after the players and giving them the best opportunity to perform at an optimum level and not putting them at risk as such because of the uncertain times and the schedule. And that schedule gets tougher because, for instance, we play 2 games in 2 days over Christmas. So I think it would have been really beneficial for player welfare. Normally, I think the modern day player welfare, employee welfare comes out on top. I don't think it quite has this time. But the decision's made and we just carry on.
Just turning to the game against West Ham, obviously under David Moyes, they've made a lot of progress. In the past, they've been involved in a lot of relegation battles. Now they're, I think, just 1 point behind you. What do you think of the job that David Moyes is doing there? And have you seen them progressing season by season recently?
Yeah, I think he's doing a great job. They have good players, but you know the way they're playing and the consistency they've got to the levels they've got this season have been really impressive because I think he's a experienced, very, very good manager who's obviously got his message across to them, and they're playing really well. The organisation of their team, the style that they play in is difficult to play against. They had threats on the counter-attack. They're very good at set pieces, so they're just playing really well. They're clearly a well-managed team.
Does it mean more to you when you play against West Ham because of your history with the club and also your father's record of playing for West Ham?
If I'm honest, it did when I played. As a manager, my role now, it doesn't. Maybe I've mellowed or something's changed, but I also, you know, I focus on what's necessary for the club. Maybe I took it on me personally to really get up for that game against West Ham because I'd played for them before. But now I don't. I just see it as another game, particularly off the back of 2 defeats for us. It's an important game just for us to approach in the way of we want to get back on track where we were before these 2 games.
And just the final one from me, on Declan Rice, obviously you weren't in charge of the club, but how much of a regret is it that he left at Chelsea, and what have you made of the player that he's become for West Ham and also for England?
Well, he's a fantastic player for West Ham and England, so fair play, because his journey there of leaving Chelsea and going to West Ham, it's a good story to hear because there are lots of those stories for different reasons to whatever level, and that shows a strength of character. And in terms of from our end, I don't think we certainly wouldn't use the word regret. Our academy is one of the best in the world. You look at our first team now, what the players that we've produced are in and around the first team squad. We've got so many, and it's not easy. It's not an exact science to pick, choose, or whatever players. But the academy work brilliantly here and bring through a lot of good players. Declan Rice has given himself personal credit for going and having the great start to his career that he's had at West Ham.
Let's come to Olivia at PLP.
Hi, Frank.
Hi.
You've been playing Timo Werner on the left more recently. We saw at the start of the season you playing him through the middle. Is it a case of Giroud and Tammy playing really well and not having available wingers is why you're playing Werner on the left? And long term, do you think you'll be playing him more through the middle?
Different reasons on that one, because we obviously when we have a big reference of a target man, you know, I get asked a lot why am I not playing Tammy or Ollie or Tammy, whatever way around it is, all the time. And Timo, for Leipzig and for Germany, has played as a number 9 on the side, slightly behind sometimes. So he's played all those roles everywhere he's been. So I don't think it's a problem for him to play there for us, and he could be used in various roles across that front 3.
And also, just a quick question on Kai Havertz. He has struggled, especially after the whole COVID thing. What do you think? We've seen him play, he's very versatile. We've seen him play on the right, we've seen him play in a midfield 3. What do you think his best position is, and do you think 4-3-3 suits him?
Yeah, I do think it suits him. He can play, and before his COVID period, he was playing very well on the right side of the 8, in the 8 position for us, and I think he can play various positions. He said that, but of course consistency in a position is sometimes a good thing, and that's what I want to get for him. But I think the reaction around Kai is, when you look and you really analyse what's happened here, Kai came in without any form of pre-season, just started to really play well early in the season and gets COVID, and now comes back, and all eyes are on because of the price tag. But I think we must have huge perspective here. I've mentioned some of the greatest players the Premier League's seen have taken time to succeed in the Premier League. Some of them have been and gone away and come back to the Premier League and become great players, and we all know who those examples are. So I'm not saying it will take a long time for Kai, but we have to give him a bit of time to settle in on and off the pitch, and that's what's happening. I'm very happy with him. I've got no problem with him, but for Chelsea fans and for us, we must give him time.
And just one final question. Against Wolves, we saw Pulisic obviously play on the left, and he was causing Semedo some real problems whenever he did. And then he made that switch to the right. Is that something that you as a manager tell them to do, or is that up to the players to make that switch during the game if it's, say, not going well?
Yeah, that's my decision. It can happen sometimes in game for how the game pans out and players cross over, and in those terms they maybe stay in that position for a while until they can cross back. But those are my decisions because I have players on the wings that can play on both sides. Not all of them. Hakim Ziyech clearly has been more of a player that plays on the right, but with Timo, he's played left and right of a front three in his previous teams. The same for Christian, played left and right for Dortmund and did the same for us last year. And sometimes you feel like it could give the opposition a problem. When Christian moved to the right against Wolves, he dribbled into their box, went on an amazing run, nearly created a few things. So I like to see to have the option to change them at times.
Let's finish this section with one from Nick.
Hi Frank, thanks for your time as always. Just wondering, after a busy summer, would you anticipate doing any business in the January window? We know it's a really difficult window anyway. And just on Timo, obviously 8 games without a goal, that's not a particular problem. I'm sure you'd think he's got the strength of mind not to worry about the numbers in that way. Obviously strikers always want good numbers for goal return, don't they? But it's all swings and roundabouts, isn't it really? And I'm sure he would view it in the same way, would he?
Yeah, firstly, I don't know about January, and I'll consider January when it's here. So I've got the squad, and we're working hard at the games that are in front of us. With Timo, yeah, any goal scorer will want to score regularly. Simple answer, but must have the mental toughness and confidence to go through periods, because everyone will go through them. Absolutely every striker. There's not been a striker in the history of the world that can manage to score game in, game out for a long career. So there's no problem on that front. He needs to remain confident. He needs to keep getting in the areas, and those goals will come without doubt.
Is Livramento. That one into the path of Tino Anjorin. Oh, Mengi's lost his footing. That could be costly. Anjorin's got support. Cut back for Marcel Lewis. Deflected and in. Chelsea ahead. We've not even played for 2 minutes yet. Once Mengi hit the deck, it always looked as though United would be in trouble. Nothing Leg could do about it with the deflection. Soon-Sut-Belt. Great feet. Can he get the shot off? Oh, yes, he can. His first PL2 start. And Jude Soon-Sut-Belt marks it with a goal. We've only played for 3 minutes. Anjorin, United all over the place. Great footwork from Anjorin. Now Livramento. It'll come back to Tino Anjorin, and at the second attempt, he makes it 3. Chelsea rampant. United's defending leaving plenty to be desired again. Fish has got himself in a right muddle again. Here's Lewis, Marcel Lewis. Woolston manages to save it this time. Fish has had a nightmare of a first half. Lewis almost punished him. Swished up into the air by Lucas Bergstrom. And he couldn't win it. Here's Lewis Bay. Livramento to his right, that's the intended recipient of the pass. Saw caught by Fernandes, surely a penalty. Yes, it is. Surprised there was any hesitation from Robert Maciellis, the referee. Andrew in for his second of the game then. No problem whatsoever. Chelsea cruising. Cool as you like from Tino. Chelsea going to end the year in style and top of the table. Lewis, it's 5. Where was the United defence? Marcel Lewis doesn't care. He's got 3 goals this week. Lovely turn. He shouldn't have been given that much time. Fernandes dispossessed. Here's Charlie Brown. 6 for Chelsea. Brown only just onto the pitch, adds his name to the ever-increasing list of scorers. Fernandes robbed, and Brown with a cool finish once he'd taken care of Fish. United have hardly threatened Lucas Bergstrom's goal. Mejbri. 3 miles ball down the line for Fernandes. Decent cut back, and they do have one back. It's Hugill, the substitute, who's turned it in. It matters very little in the grand scheme of things. It's 6-1.
Ever since then, you know, he's probably been my close friend in Chelsea for, all 9 years.
Do you miss him now? You still
We're still speaking, and I miss him. Brøndby, that's my childhood club. That's the club I supported since I was, since I know football. Oh wow, all of them. Striker, number 10, right wing, right back, centre back. Well, I obviously haven't scored for the first team yet. I'm gonna say that Charlton goal because in the Youth Cup, important. We were 2-0 down, and I scored to 2-1, and we won the game 3-2. Ashley Cole, JT, me, and Ivanovic. Ruben. When I was injured, I came to the club to get treatment just in the beginning for 2 weeks, and at the time Ruben was injured as well. And ever since then, you know, he's probably been my close friend in Chelsea for all 9 years.
Do you miss him now? You still
We're still speaking, and I miss him. First football mate. First football mate. We've got to go very long back. I would say the one that I'm closest to at the moment, probably Andrew Saga, playing in Holland at the moment. No, I was playing in the gold and blue. I think that was for Euros as well. Nike boots. Football hero. Daniel Agger. Yeah, I'm gonna say probably 92 Danish national team. 9-10 Chelsea. I'm Andreas Christensen. That was my 90 seconds football record.
New Sure Ball Protection, offering double the protection of 72 hours, outlasting the heating anti-rust, and giving you the confidence you need to take on every challenge. Our best ever protection in an aerosol. Sure Ball Protection, it won't let you down.
For the first time, I'm going to introduce the main flies model in a football boot. Fly is all about universal
Frank Lampard knows only too well how much this derby means for both sides. As a player, he won 15 of his 20 matchups against the Hammers. I'm sure if you ask him, a win tonight will taste as sweet as the very, very best of those. Let's go straight into the team that he has selected for the test of West Ham United tonight at Stamford Bridge. In goal, Edouard Mendy, a back four of captain Cesar Azpilicueta, Kurt Zouma, Thiago Silva and Ben Chilwell, N'Golo Kanté, Jorginho and Mason Mount in midfield, Christian Pulisic, Timo Werner and Tammy Abraham leading the line for Chelsea tonight. On the bench for Chelsea as well, a slightly larger bench now due to the change in Premier League rules. Kepa Arrizabalaga, Antonio Rudiger, Andreas Christensen, Mateo Kovacic, Olivier Giroud, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Billy Gilmore, Kai Havertz and Emerson. Let's go straight into our one to watch tonight then, which is Tammy Abraham leading the line for Chelsea tonight. Claire, he's a player that we've seen on numerous occasions this season add more to his game, and I think the fact that he's got 11 goal contributions in his 19 Chelsea games this season shows that he is more than just goals now.
Yeah, he wants to stake his claim, doesn't he? He wants to be that starting centre forward, and he has grown into the season. Yes, last season he's leading the way, obviously off the back of a transfer ban. He took full advantage of that, didn't he? For me, this kind of game, it's about lulling West Ham out. We want to create them spaces. We want him to occupy that back line, try and create spaces for the likes of Pulisic and Werner to come in and out and interchange. And obviously Jorginho's on the pitch. I think for me, I've not seen enough of him. I love how he plays. I love how he breaks the line with his passes. So can Tammy be that focal point and allow players around him to shine? And obviously get on the back of his crosses for me. It's key.
I mean, Ben, you've seen him obviously throughout his Chelsea career at youth games, and obviously starting for Chelsea last season and this year as well. He's definitely added more to his game, but I suppose that the big test for him now is that consistency in able to stop other players being given the nod. Although you can't really do a lot when Olivier Giroud gets to go in Seville and scores 4, can you?
No, well, that's the thing. But no one's really nailed it down, have they? You think someone has. For a while last year we thought Tammy had. But then he hadn't, because Olivier came in. He had barely had a kick, but he got in, and then he was definitely first choice, and you almost couldn't see it. How could we pick anyone other than Olivier? And then with Tammy again, well, it actually started with Timo Werner. Then Tammy got in, I think, mostly off the back of what Frank saw in training, and then in the Barnsley game when he actually set up all 3 of Kai Havertz's goals. And he suddenly thought he could have Timo coming from the left a bit more, which was always an option in his eyes, because Timo had done that at Leipzig. And then Olivier gets in because he's done what he's done again on merit. It's no one's absolutely ever long-term grabbing, and maybe that's the way it is. I don't know. Maybe no one ever will. Does anyone have an absolutely first choice these days? I mean, yeah, N'Golo, yes, in that position, and probably that. But nothing is set in stone. And maybe right now it's Tammy's, but in 2 weeks it could be Timo Werner up there. It could be Giroud again. I mean,
who knows? You're exactly right, and that's the quality and the strength in depth that Chelsea have. Dan, one thing I do want to talk about, and I know that you've championed this earlier on in the season countless times, and even the tail end of last year as well, because you look on paper, right, and I didn't realise actually how good the stats back up Tammy Abraham's performance. He's got 35 goal contributions in 69 Chelsea games overall, right? It's about 1 in 2 that he's scoring or assisting, which is very, very good, considering the level of opposition he's up against in terms of Premier League and Champions League. But not just that, it's his selfish off the ball running, it's the space he creates, the way that he stretches defences. And I know you champion this sort of unselfish centre forward play that he does, but he really does a huge amount for the team that perhaps doesn't get the rewards that it deserves in terms of goals or assists, does he?
No, look, he presses well. Even when we're off the ball, he's usually the first one to go and press teams. You can see the running. The running that he does and the hard work that he puts in for the team, but just the little intricate bits of what I think make Tammy quite special is little runs to create space for whoever's playing in the 10 or the midfielders. He's got a bit of everything. He can be a target man, he can be a runner, he can be somebody you can go to feet and he'll get change out of the defender. So he's got a bit of everything. So he'll always manage to keep his place in the team. It's just whether anyone can do it for long enough. I'm not sure if we've even seen a striker in the last few seasons keep his place in the team for 10 games. I suppose it's just how it is now. Different defenses, different systems mean different players, and that's just the way that football is at the moment. But I'm sure Tammy will be thinking that he's put in some good performances this season. He works hard all the time. And he'll want to keep that number 9 shirt.
Jay, if you're a centre forward as well, having Cesar Azpilicueta, and obviously it's his birthday as well today, Ben Chilwell, but having the quality in the wider areas that we have, whether it be Reece, whether it be Aspi or Ben, if you are a centre forward like that, you've got to be licking your lips at every game coming ahead, because you know if you're getting the right positions, you're going to get that service.
Yes, but there was a game here the last home game, I think it was. Reece James put 2 beautiful balls in for Tammy. One of them was behind him. One of them I think he's got to do better on. So yes, the quality of the crosses are there. Tammy's now got to get on the end of those. I think there's been 1 or 2 times where Tammy perhaps could have been a little bit more ambitious, get in front of that centre half. It's about a run of games as well. I think when you get players that come in, maybe 2 or 3 games at a time, it feels as though they have to impress, got to do it. Have to try and maybe snatch at 1 or 2 things. Maybe don't do things naturally because he's had 2 or 3 games on the bench or coming off the bench. Now he's got his chance. He's got probably a 70-minute game here at least before, if there is a change. So now when the ball's coming into that box, be in front of that centre half. Can you anticipate where that ball's going to be? Because you're right, Joe. We are very good now, right now, those balls coming into the box.
Ben, we've all mentioned it. Jay said there, you get sometimes 60, 70 minutes. Sometimes you get a game and a half. But the squad rotation is important to reference because goals are coming from everywhere for Chelsea as well, aren't they?
Well, they are. If you look across all the comps, Olivier's got 8 and Timo Werner's got 8. I mean, a lot of people making a lot out of the fact that he hasn't got any in his last 8, which is true. But he's scored 8. Tammy's got 5 of them. It is shared around a lot. And you don't always need, a prolific guy if you can spread it around. I mean, Chelsea have had 13 different Premier League scorers this season, which is by far and away the most. In fact, to be honest, that is pretty much normal for an entire campaign. And you think there'll be a few that haven't got one yet. We have done as many as 15 and 16 in the past. I was just having a little look at 04-05, the first Jose title season. Won the league. 93 points. Frank Lampard was the top Premier League scorer with 13 goals. You can do that because there were 5 people who were in... sorry, someone's WhatsApping me. There were 5 people who were in double figures that season. So if you can spread that around, that is great. I don't know. Obviously, you want to be greedy and the Ancelotti season here, the 09-10 double winner, it was spread around amongst 15 different scorers, and Frank got 27 and Didier got 37 in all competitions. But you can't always have that. But if you were going to say anything, do you want also a prolific guy, or is the nature of this team always going to mean that it is shared around? Because right now in Premier League terms, Kurt Zouma is joint top with 4 goals, right, with Timo Werner. So that's where we are with that. But it doesn't matter as long as everyone does keep doing it. You're certainly more healthy that way around, I would have thought, than if you are completely reliant. If you're Leicester and you lose Vardy, we've seen what happened in the last 3-4 years. Every time Kane has had an injury, as good as Son is and is becoming even better, but every time Kane has had an injury, the ankle goes, that is it. Whereas that probably isn't the case here, if we're honest. If Timo Werner or Olivier Giroud or Tammy Abraham, or even 2 out of those 3, went over on their ankle tonight and were out for 6 months, Chelsea probably still share the goals around just as well.
Absolutely. That was probably Frank Lampard just WhatsApping Ben, making sure he had the right number of goals for the season. I know your game. Good work, Ben. Top work as usual, mate. We'll let you go and get ready for commentary. Thank you very much for joining us. Obviously, West Ham have caused us problems from set pieces last season. We all remember that game. Jason has been looking about how we have improved in that area since then.
I think it's fair to say that one part of our game that had to improve from last season was defending set pieces, in particular from wide areas and corners. Clearly, Thiago Silva, Mendy and Chilwell have added to our defensive responsibilities at the back. Let's have a look at the goal we conceded against West Ham. Really poor goal. Wasn't the best ball in. It's lofted in. Can the keeper come and claim it? No one attacks it. It's a free header at the far post, and it's not particularly good. It bounces before it goes over the line. Bad goal to concede. This season, however, clearly hours of work on the training ground has had an effect, but we're taking far more responsibility. Someone is going to attack the ball. We're still marking zonally. You can see here away at Newcastle now how we've set ourselves up. Zonally, you see the blockers on the edge of the box, but Big Kurt has improved no end with his defensive headers. Also in the other box as well with the goals that he has scored. But it's the second balls as well. We don't win the first one. Can we go and win the second one? Make sure we get something on it. So all round, taking more responsibility to make sure that we have improved defensively from set pieces.
Okay, well, leads us straight into hot topic 3 for tonight, which is how do we stop West Ham's aerial threat? Claire, that is the question. You know, they've got a very tall squad in Haller, Rice, Souček, Ogbonna, all well over 6 foot. We know that they've got that physical presence, and we've seen that in the past. How do we combat that tonight?
Look, I remember time and time again my manager in the past saying, don't give away any silly free kicks or fouls or set pieces. Let's think about the assets they have, which is exactly the set pieces, deliveries into the box, getting the crosses in, using them assets to dictate kind of that play and focusing on that. Can we stop that at source? Let's be organised, let's be disciplined. Let's not give away anything silly around dangerous areas. But I think more importantly, let's try and stop the crosses into the box, stop it at source. And I'm sure the game plan will be placed around that kind of thing. But then contradicting that is actually, let's actually expose what we're good at. Let's not think too much about them. But I think you have to be very conscious of what their key assets are and try and nullify them threats.
Dan, I suppose that, you know, the thing that it's quite a lazy observation, but it's a fair one, I suppose, in the way that it's almost a typical David Moyes team in the way that, you know, they're going to be well disciplined, you know, they're going to be well drilled, they're going to go about their tasks very well, and Claire mentioned it earlier about them being quite unconventional up front in terms of the way they do things. But with players like Souček and with players like Rice and with players like Haller, they've got real quality, and it's I suppose not like Claire said, not just worrying about what they can do, but I suppose making them think on the other side and try and worry them to an extent.
Yeah, it seems like a typical David Moyes team. I remember when he went to Spain, I started calling him David Moyes, just because I thought maybe he's going to start changing the way that he approaches games. But it's still going to be a hard-working team. They are going to look to, you know, any set pieces. That is where they're going to play their game. You know, that is we can't fall into certain traps. Stand them up when we can and just try and frustrate them. But giving away silly free kicks around the box is probably going into exactly what they planned for. So we have to be sensible, but at the same time, as Claire said, we have to ignore what they do as well and play our own game of football. They'll be worried about us. We play excellent football at the moment, and we're tough to get when we're on our day. We're just a nightmare for any team in the league. So they know that. They'll try and set up accordingly, and we've just got to make sure that we're savvy and we show enough know-how to be able to get through this game.
Jay, this does. I suppose the one that we think back to, and the painful one, was the Aaron Cresswell screamer that he scored here. Was it 18 months ago, a year ago? Was it last season before? But remember that game where Chelsea dominate for so long, but they are very well drilled, West Ham, and they came with a game plan, and then they get not even a half chance, a 30-yarder from Cresswell into the top corner, and they get a point. So it might be a case of needing to show that patience that we've had to do over the last couple of days, but then the difference in the game between Everton and this one is getting over the line as such.
Yeah, I think that you'll find this is going to be... David Moyes, by very good definition, is a defensively minded coach. I expect this to be more of a 4-5-1 or 4-3-3. I think they'll pack the midfield. I think they'll also, with Bowen, they've got pace out wide areas. I think they will look to get at us as well when they can. But I think largely they'll be quite congested middle of the park. And that'll suit them. That'll suit them down to the ground. So I think patience is going to be key. It wouldn't surprise me if we get to half time and it is 0-0. You know, so that is absolutely right. But when those chances come, of course, goals we know change game. Depending when the goal comes, then they have to do something different. You know, inevitably, if that happens to be the case, we take the lead early. West Ham at some stage will have to try and do something different. But yeah, patience is going to be absolute virtue here today, as it so often can be. I think you understand the
Claire, where do you think the game's going to be won and lost today? Because I mean, you look at the matchups all over the pitch. We touched on the Haller and Zuma matchup that's probably going to be at the start of the game. The one I think that all Chelsea fans and England fans are looking at mainly is the Declan Rice Mason Mount head-to-head that we might see in the middle of the park today. Do you think that's the area in which the game's going to be won and lost, or do you see it as more of a kind of a different area?
It's small differences, isn't it? I think on paper we should be winning this game quite easily, but it's about that intent that we show. I think we have dropped that off. Let's lift our levels, and I think if we do that and we match them, and we compete and we actually win our 1v1 battle, it sounds so easy, doesn't it? Let's just actually make sure you're dominating and doing your jobs properly. I think that will be the difference. West Ham are very industrial. They know what they're good at, and they know what they're not good at. And I think sometimes knowing what you're not good at is a real positive for us. We're quite exciting, expansive team, and I want to see the maturity. And I think Dan touched on it before, that level of maturity and in controlling situations. Look, if we go 1-0 up, let's try and manage the game then. Like, how are we going to bring different players into it? Who's leading in them situations? I actually can't remember your question now because I went off on a tangent, but I think I answered it somewhere in amongst all of it.
But you've covered it above and beyond. Superb
Good,
as usual,
good.
right? But I'll tell you what, let's take a little look at some of our favourite goals against West Ham over the years.
Fabregas! Oh, stunner! What a brilliant free kick from Cesc Fabregas. And Chelsea get the equaliser right on half-time. Sensational goal. Work room for the shot. Oh, it's a peach of a curler. Again, oh, that's a fine ball. Zola, he's past Dix. Oh, he's past Dix again. What a goal! He's going to be a favourite if he keeps scoring goals like that. Franco Zola makes it 2. Julian Dix is all over the place.
Debut.
He's got some space here, and off he goes through the gears, through the play, into the net. Genius. There's no other word to describe him. He's the best around. Eden Hazard with another moment of individual brilliance.
Dan, that Eden Hazard goal, mate.
Something else. He's just such a special player. There's a part of me that will always long for him to come back to the bridge in a blue shirt, obviously. But yeah, he just ran through the whole team. It was just, I don't know. No one, I can't think of many players that can do it, but the one I can plays for us as well. Luckily, Pulisic.
Right now, you've sorted me out there because it's lovely because I did want to talk about Christian Pulisic and he is that sort of player, isn't he? With that low centre of gravity, the one that sort of bounces and bobs and weaves between players. It's difficult putting any player with the tag of an Eden Hazard but in terms of quality and ability, he's on that level, isn't he? I suppose that the consistency that Eden did it for Chelsea for so many years, he's been desperately unlucky now he's gone to Real Madrid, but that consistency is the level that I suppose the challenge for Christian Pulisic to get to.
Yeah, but to be fair, he's so young, so he has plenty of time to be able to do it. But just the general kind of swagger that he plays with, it just reminds me of Eden Hazard. When you're dribbling at 100 miles with the ball, but the ball is still stuck to your foot, it seems like. So, just a low centre of gravity, just fearless running, running at defenders inside, outside, right foot, left foot. It's beautiful to watch. Only a few players have it.
Jay, that ease and that swagger that Dan mentioned there, it's not something you can coach or teach, is it? It's an attitude. It's something that it's just natural ability, is it not?
Yeah, but obviously, you want to encourage what players are good at, and what he is good at for the sake is he's going through gaps that probably don't exist for most players. He's very direct, he commits as well, and he's not scared. If there are 2 or 3 against him, he will try and go between them. And as a defender, there's nothing worse than telling there's someone that has that ability, especially in places, and he's happy to go left, he's happy to go right. And because he is so slight as well, sometimes it's hard to hit. He does take some hits. Hazard used to take a lot. Just physically, he's a little bit more stocky. I think Hazard, it's fair to say, because he's quite slight, quite slender. He seems to find gaps that perhaps don't even really exist yet. He manages to get himself into those spaces, but incredibly.
Claire, it's a difficult question because he's so comfortable on his left or his right foot. What's Christian Pulisic's best position?
Look, if I was Frank, I'd let him kind of just wander. For me, I prefer him just taking up that left a little bit more so than anywhere else, because I think the natural, we're talking about the width, but I think for him to, as Jason was saying, he finds them pockets of space, and if he's more inclined to go inside, look, a defender naturally wants to show you outside, don't they? And when you're dictating as a defender, you do that. His ability to find that space, I think it throws players off, doesn't it? He shifts his balance. For me, I think it's all about balance. Yes, he is slight, but it is the fearlessness, as Jason said. It is the balance. It is that deceptive ease at which he does it, which is key. Best position, I mean, out wide. For me, on the left, I don't know what you guys think, but I just think he's more inclined to cut inside and create them spaces by doing so. People are going to be drawn out to him, aren't they? So I think that's the key there.
Dan, he's got quite an important job today as well, whether he plays on the right or the left, or like we saw him and Timo Werner kind of interchanging during the game. Either side, because with Aaron Cresswell and Kufal on the fullback positions for West Ham, they've got target men in Haller, and Souček as well, who's an absolute monster in the air wins. Probably he's the equivalent for Kurt Zouma for them in terms of everything seems to be aimed at him set piece wise and delivery wise. But Pulisic and Werner are going to have to do a bit of a job there, aren't they, in containing those two, because that looks like the area in which West Ham try and play through quite a lot.
Yeah. So defensively, they're going to have to be quite aware and awake. I think they usually are, if I'm honest. I feel like Pulisic works hard and he's always checking his mirrors to see what kind of danger is left behind him. But look, essentially their jobs are to attack, and we want to get them on the ball. And I love seeing Pulisic one-on-one with a defender, and I can literally see the fear in a fullback's eyes as soon as he's running at them, because you just know it's coming. Whether he goes right or left, you're going to get left in a lurch. So yes, we have to be aware of their strengths and their threats, but really, you want to hit them so hard early doors that their fullbacks just don't even really know what's happening.
Jay, I'm going to let you go and get set for commentary, mate. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll catch up with you at half time. You go get set, bud. Let's quickly run you through the Chelsea team then for tonight, of course. In goal, Edouard Mendy. Right back, of course, captain Cesar Azpilicueta, Kurt Zouma, Thiago Silva and Ben Chilwell. N'Golo Kanté, Jorginho, Mason Mount, Christian Pulisic, Timo Werner and Tammy Abraham. Claire, we spoke about the consistency element of West Ham. Ben mentioned they've got 7 players that are unchanged. I suppose when Chelsea have been at their best this season, it's been when there's been quite a lot of changes, because we've got such a deep squad in being able to rotate players. The festive period is going to throw up a lot of things. We've got 48 hours between the Arsenal and the Aston Villa game. So do you think maybe tonight might not be players playing their way into the Arsenal game, but maybe playing their way into the Villa game, if that makes sense? Do you look at it like that?
To be honest, not at all. I just think this game is so important that it's very much actually about taking one game at a time. It's the amount of cliches I come out with, don't know, the football cliches, but a lot of them do resonate. I think we know how much of a unit West Ham are. Yes, we can look forward, we can look how busy the schedule is, we can look at the rotation and applaud the depth of our squad, but actually at this moment in time, he needs to be playing his strongest team, because we need to win this game. So looking any further than this game, it will be a mistake, and I really don't think he will do. And just going back, when you talk about the Pulisic and his attributes and what you can do, talking and touching on, focusing on what we're good at rather than being too occupied. We're talking about obviously Kufal and how direct he is on that right-hand side for West Ham. Yeah, our wingers need to be switched on, or our wide players need to be switched on to the threat, but they need to actually be able to express themselves. So that balance is key. I've gone from being nervous to excited now, because we've hyped the players that are playing, and I've really focused on the attributes. So, this game is key. I think we're silly if we focus on anything else other than this game.
Love that. Dan, very quickly from you then, mate. First goal scorer, who are you going for?
I'm going to go for Tammy Abraham.
That's what we like to hear, Tammy. Go on. Well, of course, that is all from us for now. But before we join our commentary team, let's hear what Frank Lampard had to say ahead of facing his former club.
back-to-back league defeats, which actually hasn't happened to you yet since you've been here. Do you take from those games different things? Were there issues that were similarities that you found that you want improving, or were they different kinds of things against different oppos?
Yeah, there were some similarities. I think it's always dictated to a bit by the opposition at times, and I thought Everton were more aggressive than us in the opening parts of the game, and then very well organised to stop us creating like we normally do. With Wolves, I didn't feel that aggression in the game, but we didn't add aggression either. So my overall feeling of the similarity between the two, we were playing at such a really good level before, particularly after the Leeds game, and you look at our unbeaten run, and lots of things that I like to see in that game, when we run at speed and we sprint and we press and we move the ball quickly, and we came off that in both games, so it's very important we get that back, because as we saw, we got punished in 2 games.
In a camp like this, that this year, I mean this particular group, they've not had that much adversity yet. Do you notice it around here? Would you know from them that, okay, maybe heads are down a bit, or a bit more serious faces, or are they the same chipper group they normally are?
Well, we had a couple of days off, which I think was important. I felt we looked tired in the Wolves game towards the end, so I felt a little 2 days off and a reboot was important, and we've got 3 days into West Ham now. Today they look good, and I mean, it's my job to read the players as well and go one step further than just saying that they look good. But of course, when you lose 2 football matches at this level, with the expectation and around it, I think players will take 2 defeats as a bad thing, and they need to react. So it's tapping into the good side of that, and making sure we're very focused on West Ham on Monday, first and foremost. Remember the good things that we were doing before these 2 games, because we were doing really good things. That's why we were so long unbeaten, and get back to them. Basic rules of football.
They are only 1 point beneath us right now. They gave us 2 very different games under 2 bosses last year. Tough team, this Moyes West Ham side.
Yeah, and the whole thing about top half or bottom half opposition is that probably one of our toughest games this year has been against Leeds, who were in the bottom half, and we played them, we win the game. And people, it's the modern day sort of Twitter stats of football. Like you can manipulate a stat any way you want, and there's some amazing stats about how many minutes since you scored or this or that. Like anyway, I've gone off track slightly. West Ham are a very good team. They deserve to be where they are in the league because of that. Good players, good manager, good organisation. I think everyone understands that this season, so it's going to be a tough match.
Even without Antonio, they're causing sides problems, and I guess, have you even had that much time while you gave them a couple of days off to even look at them, or is that an ongoing thing this weekend?
Yeah, I have looked at them, and I've watched them quite a lot lately. Every game's on TV, we're all watching each other at the moment, and you get an understanding generally of them, but when you play them, you understand a lot more, and they're a good team. I think Haller is doing a similar job to Antonio in terms of the big target man with a bit of everything in his game, physicality, can run, scored a great goal. I mean, they're a good team, they're playing well, and that's just what it is. But we have to believe in ourselves. We know if we play well at the Bridge, then we will win a lot of games. We'll win a lot of games, so that's on us.